Well, next week's episode of Hard Knocks is going to be a lot more interesting than we thought it was going to be because the Colts wide receiver Carson Wentz has officially been placed on the reserve COVID-19 list. And we all know his situation when it comes to vaccinations. He could miss Sunday's game against the Vegas Raiders. And remember, a combination of one Titans win or one Colts loss will seal up the AFC South for the Tennessee Titans. So what have the Eagles done to kind of counter all the quarterback issues around the league when it comes to COVID-19? They have announced that they are separating their quarterbacks, and each one of their quarterbacks will now be in separate rooms when it comes to meetings during the season with the surge of the coronavirus cases. And the SEC, they're 0-2 so far in bowl season, and Auburn is currently losing 10-6 as the game is back from the half in the Birmingham Bowl. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Vols, as well as the flagship station for your Tennessee Titans. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Let's do this. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you had a great Christmas. I was out yesterday. Alex Apple is in with me today because they hit me in with a couple of well-deserved days off. We got our Brett sitting in today for Lucas as well. But for the next couple hours, going to have a great time with you. 3HL will be up next. And it's an interesting day. There's a lot going on in the sports world. Alex always kind of have to hang out with me when Blaine's out of town. So the latest, and I know if you've been listening to Buck Rising, you've heard a lot of this stuff, but if you're just getting in the car or whatever has led you to the radio, really right now COVID is the story. That's the story everywhere. It's the story for bowl games. It's the story for NFL football. It's the story for the NBA. It's the story for your family. My mom got COVID. I didn't even get to see her at Christmas or my birthday. Yeah. So that's the story just all over the globe. But for all of us who love sports, we got bowl games canceled and we got teams just going, okay, there's no opponent. We'll just fly here and play this team. It's almost like we all got to take a breath for a while this year, but this Omicron, however you want to say it, this variant is just viciously working its way through people. Now, it doesn't appear to be I'm not a scientist. We never talk about this stuff, but we have to talk about it today because of what's going on. My mother, 76 years old, is doing fine. My son had a version, and he's 7, and he did okay. Had a headache for a couple days, and then that was it. So this doesn't seem to hit a lot of people maybe as hard as the previous variant. But, oh, my gosh, is this thing contagious?
Well, and I said to my wife, Hannah, the other day, neither of us have had it. She works in Channel 5. Hannah McDonald is her name. Well, Hannah Apple. Now she goes by McDonald. But I feel like we're both going to get it, and we've never had it. And at this point, it just almost seems like the inevitable, right? Just to put some numbers on it from a sports perspective, 400 football players in the NFL have tested positive in the past month. Last year, in its entirety, in the thick of the pandemic with empty stadiums, 276 players.
Oh, my gosh.
Were put on the COVID list. So 400 in a month. 276. I'm sitting at home yesterday. I see the news come across about Bud Dupree and Nick Westbrook-Akina and Julio Jones, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, the Titans are going to run Cody Hollister out there at wide receiver again this week, and I'm going to hate it. But then, honestly, I'm looking at the ESPN bottom line. Colts put 5. Browns put 7.
Yeah.
Pats put 3.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And I was joking on Twitter as I posted a little picture, about the show starting here. Carson Wentz. Yeah. Now, the Indianapolis Colts threatens their entire season, and he's unvaccinated. Ryan Tannehill needs to be in a freaking bubble over at St. Thomas Sports Park. You need to go to practice and please go home. And it's not fair to ask guys to do that and to live your life that way, but it's where we're at, and it's wild. And what I hope, Mickey, is that there is not a great deal of luck and flukiness to the rest of the NFL season, maybe the NHL, NBA, just because this becomes so out of hand that it's almost like playing with replacement players half the time. I feel like we've been watching the Titans do that for a couple of weeks, but now it's a different factor that could rear its ugly head.
Well, last night was the Dolphins. The Dolphins have several people on the COVID list. They played the Saints, who just have no one left.
22 guys, Mick. So
Demario Davis, who's my buddy that plays for the Saints, the heart and soul of the team, among others. I texted him, and he said I'm feeling fine, but he's on the COVID list.
And one of Hannah's really good friends, my wife Hannah's really good friends, is a player personnel guy for the Saints. He had COVID. So did everybody else in his office.
Right.
I mean, it's like through that entire organization, and you hope that it almost seems like it's a matter of time before it happens to every team. Is that too negative?
No. I mean, we're already there. It's happening to every team. I mean, it's happening everywhere to every team. And we were having guys, NFL guys. By the way, you can join the discussion if you want to. 615-737-1045, Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. And last year, guys were talking about the lives they were living. Like, I come here, I get my test, I do my meetings, I go to practice, I go to the training staff, I go home. Guys were talking, and nobody in a bad way, but guys were kind of talking about, this is what my life is like now because I'm trying to, the mature guys were saying, I'm not going out, I'm not, I don't want to get it, I don't want to jeopardize winning games, I don't want to jeopardize getting my teammates sick. This has been even more amazing, and the only thing I can think about is this, and I don't know because what's today? It's December 28th, and there are just so many guys going on the list every day. And like you said, coaches, personnel people. There have been teams that have played without their coach already a handful of times this year. You wonder, because once you go to the playoffs, certainly you lop off, 2/3 of the teams essentially, or a little over half, I guess is what the number is. You lop off a little more than half of the teams. You wonder if it becomes one of those things where enough people have gotten it, they've just had it, that that maybe it's cycled through. Does that make sense? By the time you get to the playoffs, for instance, for the Titans, because guys are getting it, and Alex mentioned this, Bud Dupree, Julio Jones, Buster Screen, Nick Westbrook-Akina went on COVID reserve Monday. Nate Davis went on Christmas Day. Taylor Lewan went on Christmas Eve. Okay, well, if Taylor Lewan's had it, he's probably not going to get it. He's not going to get at some point, then yes, you have the antibodies, and however that I had it, you have the antibodies, and they say, well, for a certain amount of time, you can't get it again. Does this? I don't know if herd immunity is the right word. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but have enough people had it then that there's just nobody left to get it, and the games keep going. Here's what we've learned, though. No matter what the competitive balance level is, no matter if you're the Saints and Ian Book has to play quarterback and then the other quarterback just got there yesterday, whatever the situation, we've learned this. They're never going to cancel the games. They're just going to play the games. Now, supposedly there was a story last week that just baffled me, that the league was going to cancel the games that became the second Monday night and the 2 Tuesday night games, and the NFLPA. Did you see this?
Yeah,
and the NFLPA stepped in and said, no, some version of the team will play, because the league's deal was if you don't play the games, you don't get paid.
Right.
And that's, it's 18 weeks. You play 17 games over 8. So that's 1/18 of your salary if you don't play. But the NFLPA stepped in and said, no, some version of these teams will play. So everybody gets paid.
And we just have to be honest about this. We have to hope, whether you like the vaccine or not. I mean, at this point, it's still political for whatever reason. I think that is entirely stupid, but you have to hope that these players are vaccinated. The Colts are the least vaccinated team in the NFL, and Carson Wentz, I just checked, the Indianapolis Star tweeted, and evidently this means that he is actually tested positive. He's not just a close contact.
Yeah.
He's going to miss the game, because if you're just a close contact, it's 5 days. If you've tested positive and you're unvaccinated, you're out. 10 days. That's it. And so the number of people on this team that have a vaccine and test positive, you can still come in. I don't know does Julio Jones have the vaccine? I have no idea. But if he does, he's got a chance to play on Sunday. If he doesn't, it becomes very difficult. And I mean, the vaccination status of these teams is going to make a huge difference down the stretch. And for the Colts, who have been the least vaccinated the entire year, it threatens to ruin your season, period.
And I get it. And we've steered clear of politics on this show. We talk about sports. We're just, Blaine's thing and my thing. And we've always said, hey, man, we're just going to have fun, talk about sports. But sometimes the sports and the vaccine thing, they will not let go of each other. And that's where we are. And if you're a Colts fan, and God help you if you are and you live in Nashville, but your quarterback, your quarterback's going to be out. He's going to miss this game against the Raiders. And the new CDC rules, which I haven't seen today, Alex Apple, again, hanging out for Blaine, they shortened the window.
Well, and there's rumors that the NFL might change their policy as well.
From 10 to 5 days that you have to be out. But the CDC has said if you quarantine for 5 days, that you're good.
If you're vaccinated, would be the NFL stipulation, though,
yes.
Right? If you're vaccinated, it's 5, even if you've tested positive.
Yes, even if you've tested positive for COVID,
it would just be 5.
You can get out in 5 days.
You've got to test negative still, I think, though.
Well,
we'll see. I mean, this is all in flux.
CDC reduced the isolation time for individuals who have tested positive from 10 days to 5.
But I'm saying for the NFL.
Yeah, the NFL may say.
You'd probably have to test negative to get out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say negative if you're unvaxxed. It may not be if you're vaxxed. I mean, because they want to play the games.
Well, I mean, Taylor Lewan tweeted that he was sitting on his couch, probably having a, soda. Hopefully he's not drinking soda in the middle of the season, having himself a water or protein shake, watching TV. Somebody called him and said, you've got COVID. He didn't even know it. I mean, you hope that we're talking about this in such a way that really discounts that some of these guys could be ill, right? I mean, you hope that that's sort of the iteration of COVID that all of these guys are having. You may have some of these guys that are really sick. And then what becomes of that? Your conditioning, your ability to come back.
Well, I can tell you this. I talked to my mother who said, I feel fine. And she said, I tried to walk to the mailbox yesterday and had to rest on the way there and on the way back. And she's got a long driveway. Mm-hmm. Her driveway's not 100 yards. She said, I had to stop on the way there. And when I got it, I remember Ron Slay got it. And he said, I went out and I tried to walk around my neighborhood and it about killed me. I did the same thing. I had to sit in a neighbor's yard and catch my breath. Now, I'm not a 27-year-old NFL football player.
But you're not out of shape either.
But I walk 2 miles every day of my life.
A football game?
No, I could not imagine. And so some of these guys, and maybe you're like, gosh, why is this guy not playing good this year? Because a lot of these guys have already had COVID. And I can tell you, it had an effect on me. Now, I didn't have to go to the hospital. God bless everybody who's lost somebody or been in the hospital or been in terrible shape with this. I didn't have any of that, but I still had problems, I mean, I still can't smell anything, and I had it in the springtime.
You still can't smell?
I can smell my dog's food, the inside of my church. And that's about it.
Well, let me hit you with some good news because I was over at Innsworth earlier today, coach of basketball team over there. Purdue was practicing for the Music City Bowl. Vols.
Is that where they're practicing?
They're practicing over at Innsworth in Tennessee.
Funny. I saw the pictures and wondered if that's
we had to take all our stuff out of the locker room so Purdue could take over half the athletic facilities over there. No COVID in that sense. Tennessee basketball about to play a big game tomorrow night against Alabama. Hopefully that game happens, right? The Vols football and basketball team with two intriguing things, I'm just hoping that all of these things, aren't ruined by COVID at this point. Is that too much to ask, Mickey?
No, but apparently this year it is. So just, whoever you are, whatever you believe, just do your best to be safe in it. And let's just try to keep on LIVIN living.
That's right.
LIVIN. Okay.
Just keep on living.
We're late for the break. We'll keep you updated on all the COVID stuff. We should hear, the Titans stuff will probably happen about 3 o'clock where they release any of their moves today, but wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a name or more names on the Titans COVID list, again, with 4 people getting placed on COVID reserve yesterday. Bud Dupree, Julio, Buster Screen, and Nick Whisper-Kikina. Could be more today. Keeping our fingers crossed. But we'll take a break. Jimmy Himes is set to join us next. We'll carry the show forward. We'll talk some Vols. We'll continue to take phone calls, keep you updated on everything. It's a lot going on in the sports world today. We will keep you updated on everything as we go. Blaine and Mickey with special guest Alex Apple, 104.5 The Zone. My friend Ryan Kelly joins me now, the home loan expert. Ryan, people who hear you talk, they hear you talk about getting out of debt with a cash out refi, and maybe they don't even understand what that means. Let's educate the Zone listeners on that.
Absolutely. And the cash out refinance is probably one of our most popular programs right now. We get calls on it every day. People are applying online right now. A cash out refinance is simple. It's just as easy as a normal refinance where we replace your current loan with a better loan, generally a lower rate, right? Where we drop the payment. But with a cash out refinance, we tap into that unused equity that you have. Maybe you owe $200,000 on your home, but it would appraise for $300,000. That means you have $100,000 in equity there. So on that cash out refinance, we go in, replace your current loan with a better loan, and pull that cash out and give it to you at closing. You can pay off credit cards, make home improvements, put a pool in, stick it in the bank, whatever you want. Apply for your cash out refinance today at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert, is a Tennessee residential mortgage licensee. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. Alex Apple, he said, hanging out for the Hitman today. I got to work on my talking. Let's go to Knoxville, but he's here. I saw him tweet about it. Jimmy Himes from the Sports Animal. He is the man who runs the sports talk show, Talking Sports on WNML Radio in Knoxville. Jimmy, how in the world is Nashville treating you? How you doing? Did you have a good Christmas? Have we got Jimmy?
Is he there?
Now we have a red line.
Oh, Jimmy, where have you been?
No, we've lost him. We have Jimmy. I can see his line is lit up, but it has a red line through it, meaning I cannot pick it up. So I don't know. Hey, Jimmy, you there?
Yes, sir.
All
Hey,
right.
there we go.
We got you. It's a Christmas miracle. How in the world are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and I've had a great time in Nashville. I'm at the intersection where West End turns into Broadway, and so I'm less than a mile from Vanderbilt Stadium. I'm less than a mile from the Media Hotel, and I've had a really good time so far trying to keep up with Tennessee and Purdue.
How in the world are these teams trying to manage COVID, Jimmy? Because Alex Apple's sitting in for Blaine today, and we did the first segment of the show just trying to manage all the COVID news from the sports world today. How are these teams trying to mitigate that, especially the Vols?
Well, apparently they've done a really good job with getting vaccinated. Although we don't get exact numbers, I'm told that over 90% of the football players have been fully vaccinated. I do not know how that translates into booster shots, but they have done really well. They've been diligent about this. I've also been told by the guy that covers Purdue that they have had 0 cases of COVID, and so 0 for Tennessee. And unless there's an incredible outbreak that occurs, this game will not fall like, 4 bowl games have been canceled so far?
Right.
Looks like these teams have done a really good job, and that kind of tells me that the players on these teams want to play in this bowl game.
Yeah.
I think sometimes if you're not that crazy about it, you may get lax a little bit. Now, Purdue's out a great receiver who's opted out. They're out 2 other really good players for academic reasons, but they're not out anybody for COVID reasons.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that because I wanted to ask you, about the motivations for these teams because you get to a bowl game and sometimes one team just swamps the other and you can tell they didn't want to be there. I agree with you. Both of these teams still have a lot to play for. They're both having certainly in the case of Purdue, the best season that they've had in a while. The Vols doing the same thing. Both of these teams really seem motivated.
I think they are. Look, from Purdue's perspective, now you beat a top 5 team at the time in Iowa. You beat a top 5 team in Michigan State. And now you got a chance to knock off an SEC team that, although not great in the last 15 years, has a brand name. But it is the SEC. From Tennessee's perspective, very few people thought Tennessee could get to 7 wins, much less 8. If you can turn in an 8-win season with all of the turmoil, all the departures, the transfer portal, the players that quit, the NCAA investigation, if you can do that, that's pretty darn remarkable, I think. And so I think that the players at Tennessee certainly enjoy playing for Heupel. They enjoy playing for their position coach. They enjoy playing for each other. And I think that's gone a long way in them having the success that they have had. So I think they're having fun. And I think this offense scored 28 points in the first quarter twice. I think they want to go out there and see if they can do it again against Purdue. Now, it's doubtful because that's hard to do. But I just think football is fun for these Tennessee players after the drudgery they had the last 3 years. So that's why I think they're excited about playing the bowl game.
Jimmy Himes, our guest from WNML Radio on Blaine and Mickey.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Alex Apple. And don't you think having fun, when you're talking about bowl games, if it's not a New Year's Six or you're not in the playoff, the team that's having the most fun, right, that's in the 5th month, 6th month of their preparation, that's having to practice, that still enjoys being out there, makes such a difference. I feel like a lot of times you watch these teams play in a bowl. Take Florida, for example. You could tell who wanted to be there and who didn't. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of times what these bowls come down to. Is that too much of an oversimplification?
No, I think you've hit on it. And I think sometimes that's why it can be difficult to predict a bowl game. Now, I predicted Central Florida over Florida because I thought Florida quit late in the year. So I thought that was an easier call. But there have been some games where I'm watching, I'm thinking, man, that team is just disinterested. They don't really care about being there. And you can tell by their performance. You can tell by them not playing hard, by their lack of hustle at times, and their lack of execution. And different things can lead you in that direction. For example, Florida was supposed to have a really good team. They didn't. They lost a lot of players. Their coach got fired. They don't care. Other teams that are 6-6 are excited about it. They're glad to get to a bowl game. They hadn't been in a bowl game in a while. They want to go out there and show the country that they've got a pretty good football team. So there are different reasons. But I believe in this, and I believe in this a long time. In college football, in the NFL to a certain degree, but in college football, if you have a team with high expectations and those expectations are blown at midseason or late in the year, I don't think they care. I think there's a lot of give up. And I think that's what happened in Florida. I think it's happened. Heck, I'm not so sure it didn't happen at LSU a little bit, but I think it's happened at a lot of places where you have high expectations. When you don't meet them, your players don't perform very well. They don't play hard.
Let me ask you a question about the wide receiver group at Tennessee. They found a trio this year that worked really well with Velus Jones, Javonte Payton, Cedric Tillman. Tillman coming back becomes huge for Tennessee because then behind him you've got Jalen Hyatt and maybe Ramel Keaton, Walker Merrill, the freshman from here in Nashville, Jimmy Callaway maybe. What do you make of that group moving forward? Like next year, the expectations, do you find another threesome kind of like, I don't think a lot of people felt like Tennessee had three really good receivers coming into the year, but Josh Heupel and crew kind of found three that worked. Is that an area where you look to take a transfer? I mean, how do you look at that position group moving forward? Tillman's huge because if you'd taken him away, you really had a lot of unproven guys behind there.
Alex, what I think if you're Tennessee is you're hoping you can find another Cedric Tillman out of that group you mentioned. Jalen Hyatt had a very disappointing year. He dropped the ball a lot. I think it cost him his confidence, and he didn't perform at the level. If you had said, here's your top three receivers, I would have put Hyatt in that before the year. But it ended up being Payton and Tillman. I thought Velus Jones could have a good year. Is it going to be Walker Merrill? I don't know. Could it be Callaway or Holiday? Or I don't see it out of Ramel Keaton. Of course, I didn't see it out of Tillman either. But the difference is Keaton has been in this system for a year and really didn't do anything, and Tillman in this system thrived right away. So they do want to find some more receivers, and actually they want to have more than three for rotation purposes. They would like to have six. I don't know if they can find six of them out of this group. I was talking to Taven Jackson, the quarterback signee, and he told me that he thinks the four receivers Tennessee signed in the freshman class are the best four receivers of any class. Now, of course, what else is he going to say? He's Tennessee's quarterback. But I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those true freshmen come in here and make their mark. And maybe it's Cam Miller out of Memphis. I don't know. But I think there's a freshman that could come in here and work into the rotation next year.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The kid out of Georgia, also the receivers coach in the little videos that Tennessee puts out on signing day, talked really highly of all four of those guys. And the guy, his name escapes me, the guy with the nickname, he's got the Marquarius White. What's his nickname?
Squirrel.
Squirrel White's about as fast as anybody in the world. So maybe it is in that recruiting class.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy Himes, our guest, WNML Radio. You mentioned right off the top, talking about the Boilermakers, they lost a couple players for academics. They lost Karlaftis and David Bell, who are both, certain onto NFL riches coming up soon. The Vols are just the opposite, though, Jimmy. They've gotten really good news. They come in with Cedric Tillman, who you guys have been talking about, and Hendon Hooker. That had to have lifted everybody's spirits. I guess at this point, everybody's just still kind of wondering what's going to happen with Cade Mays. Is there anything new with that?
No, there's nothing new with Cade Mays. He has not practiced yet during bowl practices. Josh Heupel said on Sunday, which was his first media avail in Nashville, that Cade Mays was working toward playing in the game. Mays did not practice on Sunday. And I don't know if Mays is going to be able to go. He's been bothered by an injury much of the season. But I also think, now this is a guess on my part, I think he's going to turn pro. I don't think he's going to come back. I think he feels like there's a part of you that thinks, well, if you come back, maybe you improve your draft stock. On the other hand, he's been banged up so much, maybe he's like, well, if I'm going to get hurt, I might as well get paid to get hurt. So I think he's going to go pro, and I think he's got a chance to be a nice pro. I don't see him in the Trey Smith mold. I think Trey Smith's exceptional, but I think Cade Mays can be an NFL offensive lineman.
Jimmy Himes, our guest. Well, for whomever plays on the offensive line in a rushing game, when you look at this matchup, there does seem to be certainly maybe the biggest opportunity against the Boilermakers rush defense. They're number 127 in the nation. It seems like the Vols may be able to run the ball against those guys.
I would think so. And Tennessee averages well over 200 yards a game, and they have had their way against several teams, including Missouri and South Carolina and some others. So I would think Tennessee will run the ball effectively against Purdue. I'd be surprised if they can't. They'll mix in some play action with that. I would expect Hendon Hooker to hit on some shots as well. And he could throw underneath, he can go deep. I just don't see Purdue. And Purdue's defense has been pretty good. They've had some good moments this year. But when you take away their best defensive player and you take away their best cornerback, I think that opens some holes in that defense. And so I would be surprised if Tennessee isn't able to score at least in the mid-30s against Purdue.
Well, the other thing about them, too, and I got my 127 messed up, they're actually 127. Their defense, their offense is 127 in rushing per game. They just don't run the ball. They've got a good quarterback who's gotten better every year. So it's interesting, that matchup as well. They're just going to try to throw it all over the yard, I would imagine, even without David Bell.
They will. And they're not a very good running team. They average 2.8 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Their leading rusher has less than 500 yards. Now, their best returning rusher is Xander Horvath, and he suffered an injury, and he may have played half the games this year when he was healthy. He was their best rusher a year ago, but being fully healthy, I would expect him to play a huge role in this Purdue offense. And he's a good pass catcher out of the backfield. And he's a big bruiser. He's not. Nobody ever confused him with the nickname of Squirrel. I can tell you that. But he's a big bruiser, and I think that he could give Tennessee some problems. But I do think Aiden O'Connell's going to throw it a lot. He may throw 50 passes. They like to throw it underneath. They like to throw screens. They like to throw quick slants. And even though they've lost Bell and Milton Wright, their two best receivers, they've got two other receivers that have at least 33 catches. They got a tight end that caught 40 passes. So I think that, and T.J. Sheffield, by the way, is one of those receivers that caught 33. I think that they will look to those three players, the two wideouts and the tight end, and throw a lot to them. But I don't see Purdue mounting much of a run game against Tennessee.
Yeah, me neither. Jimmy Himes, our guest from Sports Talk WNML Radio.
Well, I'm still mad, Jimmy, about Carson Edwards hanging half 100 almost on Admiral Schofield's Vols in the NCAA tournament a few years ago. So I hope the Vols deal him a little payback for that. But, hey, let me ask you about the basketballs, too. A big game coming up tomorrow night. I mean, I have a great deal of respect for Nate Oates and the way Alabama plays. It's been a little streaky this year, but you look at J.D. Davison and Jaden Shackelford and Javon Quinterly, the three J's, and their ability to shoot the ball. It puts a premium on keeping your guy out of the paint. They want to drive and kick. You got to really match up well defensively and take some personal pride in keeping them out. You think the Vols play well in that game? How do you size that one up?
I do think Tennessee plays well in that game, but it's interesting that there are two teams that have given Tennessee an awful lot of trouble in the last few years. Alabama's one of them. Auburn with Bruce Pearl over the last 4 years has been hard to beat. Kentucky's been hard to beat too. But Tennessee has owned Kentucky at Thompson-Boling Arena. Alabama has really done a good job against Tennessee, regardless of who the coach is. I remember a couple of years ago when Tennessee had that great team, they went down to Alabama and lost by 20-something points at Coleman Coliseum. I read where some experts said they thought Alabama had the best trio of guards in the country. Well, Tennessee's got some really good guards, too, led by Kennedy Chandler and Santiago Vescovi. And if John Fulkerson plays like he did against Arizona, then Tennessee's got a great chance to win this game. My biggest concern about Tennessee, well, there are two of them. One is I think at times they fall in love too much with the three-point shot. The other thing is they need a second scorer inside besides Fulkerson. Fulkerson needs help. Is that guy Brandon Huntley Hatfield? Is it Olivier Comwa? Is it somebody else? I don't know. Those are the two most likely prospects. But Fulkerson can't do this alone. He's got to get some help. And he's also going to get in foul trouble from time to time, or he's going to have an off game. Tennessee has got to find another inside threat, another inside presence to help him. And if they don't, I don't know that this team is going to go a long way in the postseason.
Well, were you surprised Brandon Huntley Hatfield, a 5-star signee, only played a couple of minutes against Arizona? I mean, in a game that Tennessee won, only played a couple of minutes the other night. And the other guy, Jonas I don't know how you pronounce his last name. I guess he's just not ready. I mean, he's not really gotten much of a look at all this year.
Adu was looked at as sort of a project anyway. He was expected to come into the program and maybe play some in year 2, then more in year 3. Huntley Hatfield was a 5-star, and a lot was expected of him. The only thing we get out of Rick Barnes is that you earn your playing time based on what you do in practice. So maybe Huntley Hatfield's not practicing that well. But that's the guy to me that has got to emerge. He's got the most ability. According to Barnes, he's the strongest player on the team. He's got a good skill level. He can rebound. I think he's the guy that's got to emerge. He's got to come along. He's got to come along quickly. And I think he's got the best opportunity because Kumwa is interesting. If they're playing Tennessee Tech, he's really good. If they're playing Villanova or Arizona, he's not. I don't know if he gets nervous. I don't know if there's a height difference, what the deal is, but he has been really good against bad teams and not so good against good ones. And so I don't trust him at this point to be that other guy to help consistently inside with John Fulkerson.
Jimmy, thank you, man. Enjoy the game and the rest of your time in Nashville, and keep yourself safe, and we'll catch up again soon.
Hey, Mickey, Alex, thank you for having me. Happy New Year to you guys and your listeners. Appreciate it, and we look forward to the Music City Bowl.
Yes, sir. Thanks
so much, Jimmy.
That's the OG right there. Jimmy Himes, Sports Talk Radio, WNML. Bill from New York called in at the beginning of the show. We got a minute and a half or so to take the call. Yeah, Bill was wanting to talk about Nashville, so let's go to this Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline and say hey to Bill from New York. Bill, thanks for your patience, man. What's going on? What do you want to talk about?
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you. You guys are awesome. You spoke about early in the show. You guys just try to keep away from the politics, and we do appreciate that, man. It's a great distraction to everything going on. But coming in this Sunday, hopefully see my Titans win the division. My daughter got me tickets for the game for Christmas.
Very nice.
I live out here in New York. I'm a longtime Titans fan. Go back to the Houston Oilers and Warren Moon in the run and shoot days. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be my first time seeing the guys on the home field.
Well, man, that's awesome. So you're just in town visiting for the holidays, and is this your first time to come to a Titans game?
This will be my first time on the home field at the Titans in Tennessee.
Well, it's only going to be like 39 degrees, which will feel great
It'll
for
feel
you.
like
I
home
mean, being
for
a New
you.
York guy. Yeah, you'll love it. That's your weather, Bill. You brought that with you.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry we're bringing the cold weather.
Hey, man, it's okay. Listen, we appreciate you checking in and enjoy Nashville, and it's a great place. It's a great place to visit and enjoy the game. Hopefully they can get a big win for you.
I hope so, too. I'd love to find out where you guys are going to be before the game. Maybe I'll hang on the line after being on the air and just love to find out some information where we can catch up with you guys because not familiar with being around for our game. So love to find out where the action is.
You got it, Bill. Thank you for the call, man. Happy holidays and
awesome.
Happy New Year. Yes, sir. All right, I'll put Bill on hold. Outside the Titans Pro Shop.
Yeah, they find you right outside the Pro Shop.
Yeah.
They stop by, say hello to you.
Kevin Dyson, Blaine Bishop.
Hitman.
You can say hello to two NFL legends.
Then you can go inside and get you a custom Blaine Bishop jersey in the Pro Shop for about $300, however much those are costing.
And then you get a Kevin Dyson jersey as well. You get both. Or here's what you do.
You get the Dyson jersey, and then you get it inscribed with something about the Music City Miracle, and you've got yourself a collectible.
That's true. Or you just get 23 on the front and 87 on the back and get one to sign one and sign on the other. You'll be set. They'll do that. It's a custom jersey. Right. Jim and Dixon, hold on. We do have to take a break. We'll come back. We'll go back to the phones. Jim wants to hit this talk. We need to share this, too. The Eagles may have figured this deal out as far as they have a thing that they've put in place. And if you're a Titans fan and you hear this, you will want this to happen for Ryan Tannehill. We'll share all that next. It's Blaine and Mickey, special guest host Alex Apple sitting in for the Hitman on 104.5 The Zone.
How many nasty waiting rooms have you walked into while waiting on your vehicle repair? It's like you don't want to sit down or touch anything because there's grease all over the place. Well, at Eurofix, you'll find luxurious waiting rooms with all the internet connectivity and refreshers you need in a safe environment. And Eurofix fixes everything European with an ASE certified technician. And not all repair shops have ASE certified techs, so you better watch out and make sure you get an ASE certified tech working on your vehicle, European vehicle, that is. And Eurofix also offers a nationwide 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on all repairs and a free loaner car with those repairs. And you'll like this, no surprises. No work is done without your approval. And Eurofix also offers a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection, and you can drop in with no appointment necessary. A former youth pastor and starting out with just $50 in tools, owner Aaron Stokes and his team have been repairing European vehicles for over 2 decades now. So if you want the best to work on your European vehicle, just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX Monday through Friday, or you can just visit them online at myeurofix.com. That's myeurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said ya.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Well, we had somebody who held right until we started the music and dropped.
He held for like 20 minutes.
He did, and then literally I was reaching for the button and noticed he wasn't there. You want to jump in the discussion, you can. Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, 615-737-1045. Alex Apple sitting in for Blaine Bishop. So the big news out of the AFC, well, there's two nuggets of news out of the AFC South today. Number one is the Jaguars have requested permission to interview Bucs offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich. Yeah. So that's no surprise. He's a Jags guy, homegrown guy. He's
young, kind of sexy right now.
Would be a perfect match. He's a top-level candidate who's having great success with Tom Brady, which anybody would have success. But anyway, they're having great level success, and he would be a great guy Jags fans could get behind, I think. I mean, I want the Jags to keep screwing up. They're keeping Trent Baalke, right? Which
yeah,
Sean
he was
Khan
basically hired to babysit Urban Meyer.
is keeping the architect of a disaster, which, if you're a Titans fan, you just want to keep rooting for turmoil. And I feel like, Byron Leftwich hire might give some stability down there. And, I don't want that. I want them to mess it up.
But you think about for the Titans, they were staring a couple of years ago at a decade or more of Deshaun Watson, Andrew Luck, and a Jags team that had just made the AFC Championship game.
And could have won that game.
Should have won the game. I'm not sure they'd have won the Super Bowl. Should have had the Patriots on the rope. And a couple of years later, you just look at the dumpster fire. I mean, Bill O'Brien took that gem and turned it into a lump of coal. The Jaguars fell apart with all kinds of issues. I mean, they had every issue under the board. And the Colts are the Colts. They you talk about a nice little 30 years here. You draft Peyton Manning, fall ass backwards into Andrew Luck, and now they've finally struggled a little bit with Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz, but hey, you can do a lot worse than that. Speaking of worse than that, I know we want to talk about the Eagles. Miami's on a 7-game winning streak, Mickey, but let me hit you with the quarterbacks that they've played against on that 7-game winning streak.
Real murderer's row here, huh?
Tyrod Taylor.
Who beat the Titans?
Lamar Jackson, okay, but you never know what you're going to get, to your point, with the Ravens. Joe Flacco, Cam Newton, P.J. Walker, Mike Glennon, Zach Wilson, Ian Book. I mean, the latter half of that, laughable. That's how you win 7 games in a row, is playing quarterbacks like that. Key for the Titans. Stay healthy.
The Titans are a better team than the Dolphins, I truly feel like, and especially being at home, and they've had a couple of, 3 days extra of rest, got to wake up at Christmas in their own beds. The Dolphins played in New Orleans on Monday night, then have to fly back to Miami to start their prep for the week. The weather's going to be apparently dropping disastrously, 40 degrees from one day to the next, from Saturday to Sunday. So the setup is there for the Titans to win. Now, the key for the Titans, and the other piece of this AFC South news is Carson Wentz has gone into COVID protocols for the Colts, which Tom Pelissero has pointed out. His game is to be his game status for Sunday is to be determined, because the NFL is looking at a 5-day window of return instead of a 10. Carson is unvaccinated, but the CDC is basically saying now for life that it's not 10 days anymore. It's just 5, that you can go back to your life after COVID instead of 10. Literally, that not 7. They're shorting it to 5. But Carson Wentz, as Tom Pelissero says, status to be determined, pending if the NFL updates their COVID protocols to match that, which we all think they will. He did point this out. Like any other player, though, once you've had it and come out, you're 90 days test-free. So whoever has it now can play all the way to the Super Bowl.
I didn't realize 90 days
That's what the number is,
okay,
because you brought this up earlier. What's the number? It's 90 days.
Okay.
Test holiday, as he called it.
Wow.
But here's the thing.
But, I mean, that's if the NFL updates their protocols. The Indianapolis Star is reporting that Carson Wentz, if it is not updated, is out, which means Carson Wentz is not a close contact. Carson Wentz has tested positive and would be subject to 10 days. Close contacts would be 5, 10 days. So, gosh, the Colts season maybe is coming down to 40 carries for Jonathan Taylor, and if the NFL can change their policies, I'm glad that's not the Titans' fate.
Yeah, the Colts' other quarterbacks are, because they put Jacob Eason, they had passed him through waivers earlier this year, and he did not make it out of waivers. Their other quarterbacks are Sam Ehlinger, Brett Hundley, and James Morgan. That's That's who I'll say. There are rumors.
So you probably start Hundley
The Bleacher Report says that there are rumors of a Phillip Rivers reunion, possibly.
in the next 4 days.
That's what I said.
Bring that on. I mean, if you can't, and you're the Raiders. The Raiders are fighting for a playoff life.
Yeah.
You have to be able to beat that team. And if gosh, there might be something to talk about with the Colts being Super Bowl contenders if they can, win last week, win this week with all this problem that they're having. I mean, if you go into that game with Phillip Rivers or any of those other three slappies, I would be ready for 40 carries for Jonathan Taylor. Especially against a run defense that's bottom third of the NFL, at least until recently. That was 2 weeks ago that I looked, but I bet you kind of stay the same at this point in the year in the Raiders.
An Eagles reporter for NBC Sports in Philly says the Eagles, this was the thing we teased. If you're a Titans fan, you will want this for Ryan Tannehill. Said the Eagles are going beyond NFL protocols when it comes to COVID safety. The quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, Gardner Minshew, and whoever the other guy, Sennett. I don't know him.
Didn't even know.
They will be in separate rooms during quarterback meetings and will remain isolated from each other for the week. If I'm the Titans, I tell Ryan Tannehill, hey, man, we're going to put a cubicle for you out in the bubble.
Yeah.
You're not going to be around anybody unless it's like to practice. Other than that, you can't. We're going to send you a bag lunch out there and you can eat it.
And even at practice, you stand back behind everybody. We'll tell you when we're ready for the snap.
Right. Then and only shotgun snaps, and we'll sterilize the ball in between.
That's right.
But that's what the Eagles have done. I wouldn't be shocked at this point. Nothing would surprise me that any team is doing in their building. Nothing would surprise me that if we find out the Titans or anybody said we went straight back to the highest level of, we cut down people in the locker room and moved some here and some there. Nothing would surprise me at this point.
And I think the Titans proved last year in playing the Bills on a Tuesday night, and I know we got to take a commercial break, not having practiced, but had guys available.
Yeah.
Availability is the best ability. I'll take Ryan Tannehill and a full complement of receivers with no practice more than I'll take Logan Woodside and whatever else the mud is going to stick on the wall.
All right, a quarterback is available who might be a good addition back on the Titans, maybe as a practice squad guy or a backup. We'll tell you about that next. You'll remember the name. It's Blaine and Mickey, Alex Apple hanging out for the Hitman. Each win in college football means even more once the playoffs start. That's why FanDuel Sportsbook's going to hook up all new customers with 30-1 enhanced odds on any team to win their semifinal game. That means you, my friend, or me, or anybody can bet $5 and win $150 on any team to make it to the final. I'm not going to be making any mistakes. Alabama, I'm never going to bet against Alabama again. So Alabama, they're going to win. They're going to beat Cincinnati. You pick who you think you're going to win, but I think Alabama's going to win. So sign up for FanDuel Sportsbook. Use the promo code Mickey, MICKEY, and claim your 30-1 enhanced odds. There's no better place to bet college football and the playoffs than on America's #1 sportsbook. Again, don't waste your chance to win $150 on a $5 bet. Sign up. Use the promo code MICKEY. Mickey, that'll get it for you. You must be 21 or older, present Tennessee. New users only. $10 first deposit required. Must wager in designated offer market. Max bonus $150. Bonus for Tennessee users filled in the site credit within 72 hours. Tennessee site credit expires 14 days after. State restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Good afternoon. I am Joe Hunk, and if you have HBO or HBO Max, you're going to want to tune into next week's Hard Knocks episode because Carson Wentz has been placed on the reserve COVID-19 list, and he could miss this weekend's game against the Vegas Raiders. Now, remember, if the Titans win on Sunday or if the Colts lose on Sunday, the Titans are the AFC South champions. And then there's still also that whole number one seed that the Titans are going for. Now, when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, that's who the Titans are going to be playing on Sunday. If you watch Monday Night Football, you know that they beat the Saints 20-3. But Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver for the Dolphins, broke the rookie record for receiving yards with 883 that was set by Chris Chambers in 2001 for the Dolphins. And what are the Eagles doing to make sure that their quarterbacks, don't pull a Saints where like everybody is out and you've got to sign somebody off the street? All three of their quarterbacks will be getting ready for their game this weekend in separate rooms so that nobody catches COVID. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to go visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Vols, the flagship station for your Tennessee Titans. And this is 104.5 The Zone.
Let's do this, Blaine and Mickey, on Tuesday. How in the world's everybody doing out there? Thanks for joining us. We'll be with you up until 2 o'clock today, 3HL. I think they're Buffalo Wild Wings in Hendersonville. Yeah, so you can go get some chicken wings and hang with the 3HL crew. We got you covered for the next hour, though. Alex Apple sitting in for the Hitman today, getting a little holiday time off. Lots going on in the COVID world. Let's get you updated on everything that we know. So yesterday, the Titans made a flurry of moves. They placed on COVID reserve Bud Dupree, Julio Jones, Buster Screen, and Nick Westbrook-Akina. They activated from COVID reserve Roger Saffold and Elijah Molden. Now, the moves yesterday go along with this was the other one. This doesn't affect this year. Caleb Farley is on COVID. That dude has gone from just a bad year to a worse year. He got put on COVID reserve
just makes
from
me
injured
worry.
reserve.
He's not played football in so long. I mean, it'd be like relearning how to play the sport. Back, opt out. ACL, COVID.
That poor guy. This has been a brutal year for him. Nate Davis hit the COVID list on Christmas Day. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Nate. Taylor Lewan went on Christmas Eve. So that's what's going on with the Titans. We should know. You should know whatever their next round of moves are in about an hour from now. That usually comes out a little
conveniently right after Blaine and Mickey ends.
Always. So 3HL, they'll let you know all the Titans roster moves. They do those right after 3 o'clock each day. That will happen. Carson Wentz, the Colts quarterback, has gone into COVID protocols. He is unvaccinated. So by all of our understanding, and Alex Apple and I have spent the better part of the last 2 hours trying to manage our way through this. So to the best of our knowledge, since he is unvaccinated, that means he has tested positive.
Correct. If he's out, so currently, if you're unvaccinated, test positive 10 days, no matter what. Now, NFL could change their protocols, but that's it right now. 5 days if he was a close contact. And so what we were just wondering during the break, because ESPN Bottom Line is confirming what I was saying, the Indianapolis Star is reporting that he's out for Sunday, because does the 5 days, let's say it's 5. Let's say he's a close contact.
Because the CDC has changed their deal from 10 days of quarantine until 5. Adam Schefter just tweeted this. I know I don't like Schefter because he's a Music City Miracle truther, although he's a Music City Miracle liar because he says it didn't happen. NFL, NFLPA getting close to adopting new CDC guidelines, reducing the quarantine time to 5 days from 10 for all players, including those who are unvaccinated. Agreement could be done today, which takes us to the Wentz situation.
But this seems like semantics, but it's so important for these teams. Does your first day start today, meaning Carson Wentz tested positive today? Is this day one? Or is Wednesday day one? Because then you go Wednesday 1, Thursday 2, Friday 3, Saturday 4, Sunday 5. You're still out, even if they change the rules. So maybe that's why Carson Wentz is out if it starts tomorrow. I mean, Mickey, we're laughing about this during the commercial break. It is a little bit of just trying to figure it out as we go. And we, meaning the NFL and everybody else in the world. And it's hard to even decipher. It's like, you know what? Give me a press release from the team. Let me know what it says. The rest I can't worry about. It's like so many things in life. You can't worry about what you can't control. But, I mean, this is an extreme example.
And some are reporting that Carson Wentz definitively will miss the game Sunday against the Raiders. Others are not, saying it's pending the change of COVID protocols. So we have multiple people reporting different things about his potential eligibility for this game.
There's a lot of people in Nashville right now really hoping maybe it ends up benefiting the Titans too, really hoping the NFL doesn't save the Indianapolis Colts behind on this with a change of protocols, right? How many people are sitting in their car or shaking their head right now listening to us on the radio going, if they get saved by that? Because it could – I mean, they're looking at right now, they're the number one wild card. They're probably not going to win the division unless the Titans totally collapse. But they're looking like they're rolling heading into the playoffs. You set yourself up for a lot more difficult path if you slide down to that 6 or 7 seed.
Here's somebody else reporting Colts need to call Phillip Rivers. I've heard it's being discussed. Zach Kiefer, who covers the Colts for The Athletic. So Phillip Rivers coached a high school football season this year. It's Tuesday?
So you could get him in Wednesday.
Would fly there. He has to pass the test, COVID test.
Oh, yeah. What do you have to sit out a day to pass your test? I think you do.
There's no way you can just walk into a building anymore.
Right.
You'd have to.
You probably have to pass 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, he could probably do it, right? I mean, there's 80% of the roster probably the same in that offense, right? Shoot. I wish I'd have played NFL quarterback. Somebody could really tell you. But I mean, I guess it's possible. But really? That's better than the guy that you've got behind you? Has Phillip Rivers thrown a ball in the last month?
To a high school receiver. Blaine and I brought this up the other day. We got to talking about just a rabbit hole of a guy just showing up and playing. Because I wanted Ramon to go play for the Titans on Sunday. Ramon Foster, he tweeted me and said, I'm not in football shape, Mickey. So that conversation can't be had. But this really happened with the Tennessee Titans with Neil O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Who, though he did not play, his career looked like it was over. The Titans got to the last game of the season. They were playing the Buccaneers. Neil had been like going to the YMCA. I remember seeing all the interviews with him. He'd been working out at the Y. He came out of the YMCA and beat the Bucs. I'll never forget. And the Titans made the playoffs that year because he stayed on the team through the. I'll never forget watching him walk off the field carrying that football, getting to write his own ending, which was fantastic.
There's so many mythical Steve McNair, Neil O'Donnell stories. I mean, Steve McNair is about to quit the game. He's had the worst sternum injury you could imagine. Neil O'Donnell gets knocked into next week against the Steelers. Here comes Steve McNair, throws it twice on the sideline, career back on. Titans win. Those were, when you think back on that now, isn't that unbelievable? Unbelievable. I don't even think at the time we realized how remarkable. I mean, that was a heck of a quarterback duo.
The Super Bowl year, Neil O'Donnell went 4-1 for the Titans. And Blaine has said there were guys saying to Steve, you can wait another week. Don't rush back and get hurt again. Don't rush back. That's how confident they were in the other quarterback.
Yeah.
He went 4-1. And the greatest example, the 72 Dolphins, the only undefeated team in history, Earl Morrall, who was the backup quarterback. Bob Greasy didn't start most of the games that year. Earl Morrall did, the backup. He won I want to say he won 10 or 11 of those games for them, the backup. So to be a great team, you got to be deep, which brings me to our other point that we teased in the first hour. And I know it's just a small thing. Matt Barkley just got cut loose by the Panthers. He was with the Titans in preseason. He's got NFL experience. I would go get that guy for the practice squad so fast. I would tell him, we've sent the plane for you, and we've sterilized it. And put on this hazmat suit and get on the plane. And here's what I would do. And I asked Rhett Bryan. I went down the hall. Hey, is there any rumbling about this? We don't know anything about it. I would go now and get that guy. And I would say, here's the deal. You're back. Don't ever come to the building. Go home. Don't go anywhere.
Zoom into the meetings.
We're going to mail you a bag of footballs and a tire swing. And you go out and you throw that football through the tire. And we're going to mail you a yoga mat. And you take it outside, do some sit-ups and push-ups on that rascal. We'll jazzercise you. We'll mail you a Peloton. You just stay in shape.
It's like the emergency goalie in the NHL.
100%. 100%. I would emergency goalie Matt Barkley.
Can you imagine though? That conversation is not that we're joking, but it's not that far off.
It can't be. Who's the other guy? Kevin Hogan?
And Matt Barkley can probably at least manage a game. We don't know what I mean, you said he'd played. I didn't even remember that he played. Who did he play for?
He played like for the Browns in like 2017. I think he started a couple of games because I want to say we had this discussion. When he got signed, it was like now who's this guy again?
Yeah, but I mean, I'll take Matt Barkley over a guy who last played during the Obama administration.
He's thrown 621 yards. He's 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Let's get to these. I know he played for the Browns because I remembered him. Or maybe that he played 4 games for the Browns. He played 8 games for the Browns, 4 in 2016, 4 in 2017. He hasn't played since 2017. So I'm bubble wrapping Matt Barkley. I'm going to sign him to the practice squad, and I'm just going to say, do you still have a place here? If not, we'll rent you a home.
Yeah.
We're going to send.
He could stay with me.
He's going to stay with Alex Apple.
Are you fully? I'm boosted, baby.
Okay. All right.
I think
he's in Alex Apple's guest room.
We got one cat.
If he's allergic to cats, we're screwed.
Well,
I would get
black eye right now from my cat. Did you notice this?
Yeah, I did.
I actually have a black eye from my cat.
Your cat's plotting to kill you.
Well, it's actually a very nice cat. I'm not going to sully
That's
its
what they all say
reputation
after
on
the cat
radio.
punches you in the face. Oh, he's a real nice cat.
It's from a claw. How did I get a black eye? I got clawed in the face.
By your very nice cat.
Our friend took the cat outside, which is rare. We have a little enclosure, but wanted to hold her real quick. It freaked out at the friend. I went to pick it up and bring it back inside and got attacked in the face. Christmas Day. Merry freaking Christmas, staff. We say our cat calls us his staff. That's really the cat relationship.
I'm a friend to the animals, but I can't have an animal that wants me to die.
No, I'm a cat guy now. This I'm going to call this out of character, but I do have a black eye right now. Maybe you see it on the.
I don't know if it's out of character.
YouTube,
that cat is calling his friends while you're gone, saying, "Yeah, I finally took out the old man."
Barkley can stay at the Apple household. Seriously, wherever.
Honestly, right now, if I'm J-Rob, I'm going to cut some cat off the practice squad, not the one that punched Alex Apple, but I'm gonna cut some. You're on the practice squad. Whatever we got to do to make this happen. Don't even come down here. Yeah. We got people with COVID. Don't even come down here. You're not required to be here. We'll mail you some film. Matter of fact, we still have your iPad. We're going to sit it out by the road. You just come by and get it.
Yeah. The best ability is going to be availability. I said it, I think it was last segment. If the Titans have to hardly practice and stay out of the building to have their guys on Sunday, right now, that's what I'd be doing. If playoffs come, you change your tone a little bit.
And I get it.
Or until the NFL changes its protocols.
And if Tannehill's got it, or if he gets it or whatever, you're probably screwed anyway. But I at least want a guy who's thrown some passes and tried to manage an NFL game or two as a starter, in less than the last 5 years or so. I'm signing him today. I'm going to spray Lysol all over his iPad, put it in a Ziploc bag out by the road, have someone guard it. He comes by, gets it, and then we never see him again.
He's played more football than Logan Woodside.
Yes, he has.
That would actually, Ryan Tannehill, something happens to him, you find out a whole lot about Logan Woodside. There's a lot of people wondering what that looks like.
Sometimes I feel like the level of genius around here is just not recognized. And this is one of those things where I don't know if people realize the value of what we're providing
I
here.
hope John Robinson's listening.
I hope you're listening, John Robinson. I hope Coach Mack is listening because he's set to join us next. We'll ask Coach Mack about it. Heck, we'll go straight to the source. That's next on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. Happy New Year, everybody. Coming up on 2022. Let's hope it's a healthier year for all of us, for sure, as the world continues to deal with this COVID thing. Let's deal with some Titans talk now. Our buddy Coach Mack joins us, as he does this same time every week. Coach Mack, how you doing? Say hello to our buddy Alex Apple. He's sitting in for the Hitman today.
Hi, Mickey. Hi, Alex. Hope
Hey,
you guys
Coach.
had a great Christmas. Hope Happy New Year to you, both of you guys and your families, and also to all of our listeners.
Yes, sir, Coach Mack. I know you had a great Christmas. How much did that win over the 49ers just propel you into a fantastic Christmas, Coach? Because I'm telling you, Titans fans are still buzzing from the way that game
It was
ended.
a collective sigh of relief.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was perfectly timed. I mean, I was hanging out of the broadcast booth like Ebenezer Scrooge on A Christmas Carol, yelling "Merry Christmas" to everybody. When that was going on. I mean, that was fabulous. It's exactly what this Titans franchise needed. It's what the Titans fan base needed. It's what we all needed. And now, we've got to go to work again this weekend against a team coming in here that's red hot. And so but that's the way it is. I mean, that's what you have to do. You got to play your way into the tournament, and we've got a great chance not only to play our way into the tournament this weekend, but to secure the second consecutive AFC South title. So big game.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask you this, and we'll talk some about the game coming up. How were the Titans able to have more success offensively in the second half? They got shut out in the first half, came out, put up 20 points, including the game-winning field goal at the end. What kept that offense going and got it going in the second half?
Well, the turnovers helped, right?
Sure.
Those two interceptions came at really, really big times. Jackrabbit's interception was huge because it stemmed the tide of something that looked like it was getting ready to roll downhill on the Titans defense. That helped a lot. And then the pick later on helped a big time. So that helped. But the other thing is their protection got better. They were able to do their protection got better. I thought Todd Downing and his staff with the players did a really good job of working their protections, bringing a tight end over to whichever side they were going to put Bosa on. They did a nice job securing the edges. What they did a little bit better, they got a little bit better in the cylinder. They still were a little leaky there, but at least they had a chance. Even when there was not much success on first and second down, they had an unprecedented success on third and chains, which is really, really hard to do in this league. And that came with protection. And plus, look, A.J. Brown was back.
Sure.
So, I mean, what else have you got to say? I mean, that dude is a dude. And what he was able to do, and some of the catches that he made. I mean, he's such a big, strong player, and he makes such great combat catches. His touchdown was a great, stick to the outside, beat a man across his face, in the low red zone. So having him back helped. Look, guys, you guys know it, and our listeners know it. They hear me say it constantly on all of these radio hits that I do here. I did radio hits in L.A. and Dallas this morning. They asked me what was the difference. I said, they're getting their dudes back.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. If you have your dudes, you got a chance.
What'd you think about the job Dylan Radins did in his first start, Coach?
Well, it wasn't perfect at all, but I thought it was extremely, extremely efficient. And what he did, look, he had the cut penalty that he got early on, which was, to me, was just, he was wanting to be aggressive. And I think once he settled down, it still wasn't perfect, but look, he found out Thursday morning. I mean, we're playing Thursday night, right?
Right.
He found out Thursday morning he's going to be the starting left tackle against a very formidable front. I thought for the duration of the time he was in there, which, oh, by the way, was the entire game, he held up remarkably well and gave a good accounting of himself.
Coach Dave McGinnis always gives a good accounting of himself. He joins us each week, brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Need great health care coverage and affordable price? Let Farm Bureau Health Plans coach you through it. They got you covered, just like Coach Mack has us covered each week with the Mack Attack.
Hey, Coach, let me ask you about the
Hey,
zero
Alex.
blitz that the Dolphins have adopted. So one thing stands out to me last night. I watched the Monday Night Football game. Rookie quarterback, sure. But they're in zero blitz. They got 7 guys on the line. They got 4 defensive backs standing about 8 yards off the ball. And the Saints have 2 wide receivers to the right. One is running what I guess was basically a 9 route. Maybe it would have turned out to have been a post if they'd had more time. Another guy runs an out route. Xavier Howard, the outside cornerback, knowing that the blitz is coming so quickly, leaves the guy running a 9 route unguarded to break on the out route, and the underneath defender also breaks on the out route. They pick it off for a pick six. Now, difficult to assess what's coming, sure. Explain to me how Ryan Tannehill will handle that, and then also explain to me how that is not a recipe for A.J. Brown in one-on-one makes one guy miss, and you're talking about a couple of house calls.
Yeah, Alex, first of all, he'll handle it a lot better than Ian Book did. I mean, Ian Book was really thrown to the wolves. I mean, this dude hadn't taken a snap, and what Miami does, it was 6 up and 7 up, and they can bring them all. They can bail out and get underneath. I mean, they had that young rookie quarterback completely on his left foot, and what they did, they flogged the gaps so that Kamara could not be a threat early on running it. And basically what has to happen then, look, if Ian Book, here's what he has to do. If he sees that, first of all, it's check. And the first thing that you look for then, if they don't, so they can't sit on the route, you throw it up top. I mean, that's what you have to do. Now, they set on the route. Look, they took advantage of that quarterback, and rightfully so. If I'm calling defenses, Brian Flores, if I'm calling defenses for Miami, I'm going to that game, and they've got nobody left. Everybody they've got's on COVID. They've got nobody left to play the game with, basically, and you got that kind of quarterback. That's what you do. I mean, they were flogging those gaps all night. I mean, that's what they did. And when you walk up 6 up and 7 up, you walk up 7 up, and then you either bail out or you bring them all. And that's just to take advantage of a young rookie quarterback. And plus, it also is taking advantage, Alex, to your point, of the receivers not being able to work with that guy very much either. I mean, they said he came out and was throwing pre-game to some of those receivers just to get used to who they were. So, I mean, come on. I mean, that was something unprecedented. And if I were Miami's defense, I would have done the same thing. I hope they try to do that to the Titans, because there might be some atomic bombs thrown over them.
Yeah, well, and we read off earlier in the show the not exactly murderer's row of quarterbacks the Dolphins have faced during their 7-game win streak. With all due respect to those guys, they're just not top of the league quarterbacks, with the exception of Lamar Jackson. So, do you think we'll see less of that against the Titans, or are they committed to that?
No, that's their nature. I mean, it's like that fairy tale where the frog gives a scorpion a ride across the river, and at the end, the scorpion stings him. And he said, you promised me you wouldn't. Why did you? He said, because I'm a scorpion. That's what I do. and look. This is their defense. That's what they do. That's how they've won all these games. They've been winning these games. Tua's been very good. He's been very efficient, and their defense has taken the ball away. But that's what they do. I mean, that's what Brian Flores has always done with his defense. They're not going to change. What has to happen is you have to hit them early enough. What you really need to do against this football team, in my humble assessment, after watching them, I've watched a lot of film, and then I watched that game last night, and then went back and went over it again today. You got to get a score separation on these people, because they're running all that. They're running that RPO stuff. Yeah. They're moving Waddle around in the backfield at some. All of that stuff they're doing now. Tua can still throw it vertical, which he did, on a couple occasions. But if you yourself, your offense can somehow both get a score separation of 2 scores or more, you got a chance to slow some of that stuff down.
Coach Mack, our guest, courtesy of our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. You mentioned Jalen Waddle. They had 2 first-rounders, Coach. They had Jalen Waddle, who's got 96 catches for 941 yards, and they got Jalen Phillips, who's got 8.5 sacks. Man, both of those young men have just played lights out. They've really gotten some good contributions from other guys in that rookie class, too.
Well, those 2 guys were elite players.
Yeah.
I mean, they were elite players when you're vetting the draft. Those were elite players, and when you get to draft that high and you have 2 high picks, one because you weren't very good, and one because somebody wasn't very good about trading people. No matter what, those are 2 elite players. So yeah, they're playing very well, and they've been a big bonus for them. They really have been, but they're playing very, very confidently, on defense. They really are. And to Alex's question, they're not going to go away from what they've done. Look, what they've done is unprecedented. Lose 7 in a row, then win 7 in a row, regardless of who you're playing. That's an accomplishment in the National Football League. And so you've got to be well aware that you've got a team coming in here that's full of confidence and is going to make it a very, very rough afternoon for you.
Yeah, they're up to number 7 now in rush defense as well, this Dolphins team.
Can you assess go ahead, Coach.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, they got guys that can play on defense
Yeah.
now. I mean, that defense, they're not doing it with mirrors defensively. I mean, they are going after the ball. And anytime your philosophy is to put, as Alex said, 6 or 7 up and then bring and play zero coverage, you got a lot of confidence in what you're doing.
That's very true.
No question. I mean, they just sit back. Would you not just throw, if they're going to play 8 yards off the ball too, wouldn't you just throw hot?
Well, that's what you need to do. But the first thing you need to do is you've got to be on the same page with the receivers. You can't throw hot to a receiver unless he's breaking it off hot. Does that make sense?
Right.
You know, and some of what they were doing. Look, Ian Book, it wasn't his fault. He had no chance, and Sean Payton knew he had no chance either. Right. You saw Sean on the sideline. I've known Sean for 100 years, and Sean wasn't upset at all because he knew what that kid was thrown into was really tough.
Let me ask you about Zach Cunningham and his impact. One of the things that just stood out to me, I mean, it's totally an aesthetic thing, but 49ers throw a little pass to Brandon Ayuk earlier in the game. It gains 3 or 4 yards, but Cunningham hits him so hard his helmet flies off 10 yards. You know, a tone setter like that makes how much of a difference in your mind? I mean, for the players on the field from an energy level, tell us what that is like when you see that.
Well, I mean, look, tone on defense. Here's what look. My 31 years of coaching in this league, and even now what I'm doing, I've got a great affinity for violent players on defense, okay? A great affinity for them because that's the way you have to be. And, you know, the rules have changed since I came into this league, you know, but still, you've got to be violent on defense within the rules, and he is. I mean, that guy goes. He's got great length. He really gets to the ball, and when he gets there, he's nasty. And so all of that, to me, those are pluses in all my categories. And I think he was a great pickup. You're 100% right. And Ayuk is not an easy guy to bring down. That's a pretty good physical catcher, too. You know, so the more of those guys that you have, the better off you are on defense. You know that. I know that. I think everybody that watches defense knows that.
I guess I just can't believe 20-something NFL teams passed on him.
I can't speak for 20 other teams. Yeah. All I can speak for is what John Robinson did, and Mike Vrabel knew him, Shane Bowen knew him, and so, you know, I'm glad 20 others were asleep during Christmas.
Amen.
We'll take it.
Hey, what do you remember about the last time these two teams played, Coach Mack, other than it may have been the longest day of your life?
Oh, I remember it all. I mean, of course, you know, it's Mike Vrabel's first time out. Here's what I remember. First of all, Titans radio, Mike Keith is the most organized human being on earth, the most professional in the booth. And when that started, you know, Amy Wells was downstairs, you know, already. And when that started, Mike Keith went, everybody pull out your notebook. When I first came on with Mike Keith, he gave me a big notebook, looked like a playbook. He said, look, this has got everything in here, everything we do with every scenario that crops up. He said, familiarize yourself with it. I said, okay. Well, there's a whole section on weather delay. All right, so we turned to weather delay, and boom, there we go. None of that, every bit of that was planned. The only organic part of it was about hour number 3 or 4. He said, look, Coach Mack, I'm going to start something here. I want you to play along with me. And I said, sure. Then he started reading off names on the Ring of Honor and asked me about what I knew about them, you know, during their career. I mean, it was the most fabulous thing I've ever seen. The greatest testament to Titans radio was when Bob Greasy and Jimmy Cephalo came in from the Dolphins booth about 15 minutes when they declared it, and we were still on the air, and they came in there and they said, what are you guys talking about? And we said, we're doing radio here, and they'd already thrown it back to the studio, and I remember all of it. I mean, I really do, and it was really the thing that upset me was that we lost the game on a BS call. Yeah. But anyway, I'll let that go. But yeah, the longest game in history. We've got T-shirts. Titans Radio had Mike Keith had T-shirts made up for all the radio crews, so we'll always have that. But it was very interesting. The thing I really found interesting was it was a lightning delay, and we had Amy Wells standing out in the middle of the field trying to hold her microphone up to get a signal. And I kept looking at that going, that Amy Wells is dedicated to Titans radio.
That sounds like what it's like to work in television.
Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah, she was basically standing in the middle of the field as a lightning rod, you know, and so, hey, I remember all of it. all of it. But I go back to the great preparation of Mike Keith and that entire Titans radio crew, who are the best at what they do.
Yeah, Titans fans are spoiled. Don't even know how good they've had it with the crew that we have for sure. I wanted to ask you about this scenario. He got cut loose by the Panthers, and I know you're not into like the what if scenarios, but Matt Barkley's available with all the COVID stuff going around. I was saying I would almost just sign that guy to the practice squad and tell him to go home, and we'll just mail him stuff until we might need him. But he would at least know what you want to do and how to do it in case of an absolute emergency.
So he's been here before. He knows what you want to do.
Sure.
And as I said, I wouldn't discount anything now with what's going on in this league right now. I mean, this new variant, as I said, I dropped out of medical school after the first semester because it was too easy. I was playing ball. I wanted something else harder to do.
Sure.
But look, I wouldn't discount anything. I would not discount anything because we're in a territory now. This is my 36th year straight in the National Football League. I've seen a lot of things. This is really different.
Yeah.
And just Mickey and I were even trying to figure out, and I'm sure other people that are even smarter than Mickey and I are having similar conversations, like Carson Wentz going on the COVID list. If you are just a close contact, let's just say he doesn't actually have it, is not positive, he's close contact, you're out for 5 days. Well, does 5 days start the day that you test, meaning today, or does 5 days start tomorrow? As if 5 days starts tomorrow, then he's out for Sunday either way. The unpredictability, the by your seat of your pants nature of this is sort of antithetical to coaches trying to control as much as you can control. I can't imagine that frustration, I guess, is the point of my bringing that up to you.
Yeah, well, Alex, look, I could answer your question about the 7-up and 6-up and how to combat that really easily. I got no idea on the others. I really don't. I mean, they're making up these rules as we go along. You just saw where the CDC came out. Now it's going to be 5 days, and the NFL and NFLPA have got to vote on this. But I would imagine that they're going to make it 5 days, pretty quick. Now, when does that clock start? I can't tell you, and that rule may change as to when the clock starts. The minutia of this and having to navigate all of this as a general manager and as a head coach throughout this league is amazing. It really is. I mean, the things that these guys are going through now. I talk to a lot of people around this league. Still a bunch of them in a lot of places, and what they are going through now to be able to still play a game and win games that are really important, guys. As I said, I've been through a lot in my 36 years in the National Football League. I've never been through anything like this.
Do they have like a COVID guy in the building? I mean, is one guy on the training staff in charge of knowing
COVID.
all of this minutia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Oh yeah, they got all of that, but still, I mean, they're still at the mercy of what the rules are, right?
He's just the guy who's got to understand it, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean that's their job. Yes. Every club has one of it, but it as it's constantly changing, you've got to keep up with it, and then you've got to rework what's going on. As I said, it affects all of us. It affects all of us that are involved with the team. But you have to do whatever you can do to stay on top of it. And at the end of the day, guys, this is the National Football League. So at the end of the day, you have to win a game. That's it. Nobody else really cares about what else happened to you. Just like you saw last night with New Orleans. Everybody that watched knew the situation they were in. I mean, they couldn't even put enough names on the screen that were out with COVID. But guess who cared? Nobody.
That's true. Coach, great stuff again as always today. Glad you're doing well and healthy, and can't wait to hear the game Sunday. Dolphins and Titans at high noon at Nissan Stadium. Going to be a fun one. Thank you, sir.
Guys, it's always my pleasure. Alex, great to talk to you again. Go Frogs.
That's right. Yes, sir. As always. Thanks,
Thanks,
Coach.
Outnumbered 2-1 by TCU guys anytime. Alex
You
and
need to
Coach
get another
Matt get
Red Wolf
together.
in
Yeah,
here.
I know. We got to figure that out. When we come back, there's some Derrick Henry stuff. We haven't even gotten to this. You will be very interested to hear this. It's next on Blaine and Mickey. Yeah, the Tom Pelissero stuff about Derrick Henry yesterday.
So looking at this landscape, if you were to pick a team that is in that 2 spot, the second best team in all the AFC, where are your eyes going? Where do you think?
Kyle, this probably is not a popular thought at this point, but I still don't think anybody wants to see the Titans when you get into the postseason. When I was doing my annual survey of GMs and other front office people last week in terms of Coach of the Year and other awards, Mike Vrabel's name kept coming up because he's lost so many of his players, his key skill guys on offense, decimated for months now, yet the Titans keep on winning. They still got a quarterback in Ryan Tannehill who has shown you that he can step up. He's built to do it, both passing and running. Derrick Henry, it sounds like maybe even gets back for Week 18, a chance to knock off some of the rust before they get into the playoffs after his significant foot injury that he had earlier on this season. And then A.J. Brown comes back cold. Second half last Thursday night completely takes over the game. He's never going to be a high-volume guy. That's just not the way that they're constructed. But he is right now without Derrick Henry. 16 targets for Brown in that game, 11 catches for 145 yards and a touchdown. He set such a physical tone for the rest of that team. You get Henry back now, maybe get something out of Julio Jones. Don't cut out the Titans just yet.
That was Tom Pelissero, discussion on Good Morning Football, and just dropping the Derrick Henry news there. And here's the thing. Every time somebody says something about his return, talking about Derrick Henry, by the way, you're listening to Blaine and Mickey, Alex Apple sitting in for the hitman, Blaine Bishop, today and tomorrow. Every time this comes up and we play something, or if I just retweet something, inevitably I'll get 2 or 3 people who will respond to me on some social media or send me a message somewhere that they have access and say, we all knew this was going to happen. It's a 6 to 10 week injury. Everybody knows. Well, here's the thing. Yes, doctors say it's typically a 6 to 10 week injury, but we're talking about a 240-plus pound man who has a job different from what the rest of us have that involves him pounding away on that foot over and over again. So there's no guarantee with anything injury-wise in the NFL. There was a report a couple of weeks ago about Derrick Henry from Ian Rappaport. He was in line to return to the playoffs if the Titans make it in, which hopefully that happens, or potentially Week 18 if they need him for a win and in situation. That was from 2 weeks ago. I saved that in my notes. So the report again from Tom Pelissero that Brett Batchelor just played, Derrick Henry, it sounds like, may even get back for Week 18, a chance to knock off some of the rust before they get into the playoffs after his significant foot injury that he had earlier on in the season.
So he can play Week 18, Mickey. How many carries you giving him? 8?
Blaine has said this over and over, and I know Blaine listens sometimes when he's not on the show. If he's back, then he has to be Derrick Henry. Do you put him out there and go, we're going to run you 8 times?
They're not going to run him 20 times to beat the Texans.
So his thing has always been, when he's ready for everything, put him back out there. Now, if he were here today, he might say, okay, if it's just for that, to prepare him for the playoffs, sure, run him 10 times and get him out of there. I was listening to J. Martin Ramon this morning. They had a lengthy discussion about this of, is it worth it? Is it worth it for the future? Is it worth it to try to play him at all? I mean, they spent a long time on that this morning.
I listened to that as well, to try to play him at all. If the guy can go, he's going to be ready to go. You're going to stand up in that building and tell him you're out? Because the other thing is, he's a running back. We don't know how much Derrick Henry may always look a little bit different for having had this foot injury. You don't know. I'm playing him. I mean, don't you side on that, Mick? I listened to that J. Martin Ramon conversation this morning. It was super interesting, but I'm playing him.
And you
have a shot to win a Super Bowl this year if he's there.
If the doctor says this thing is structurally sound, here's every X-ray, here's every way we can test this thing, and this is what it's supposed to look like. This is, sometimes people get injured and the injury gets fixed. It's like I had a friend who broke the neck of his Gibson SG. He knocked the guitar over, and they glued the neck. And the glue job was so good, 7 years later, he dropped it again, and it broke in a different place. Meaning the injury to the guitar healed back as well as it healed so well that another area broke when it was stressed because that area, that glue job helped. Anybody who's got an SG, you know what the fear of breaking the neck. But I would think Derrick Henry looks him in the eye and says, we don't know what tomorrow holds. This is it.
This is today.
We're in the tournament.
We've got a chance.
We got a chance. Who knows what happens next year? Who knows what happens with COVID? Who knows what happens next week? Here's all my tests. They say I'm good to go. I've been running. I'm fine. We don't know what. It's not like we've seen him run. But if the doctors say he's good to go and he says he's good to go, then I think you got to say, okay, big fella, let's go. Let's go try to win this whole thing.
And it's so crazy. I was watching some Good Morning Football this morning, and Kyle Brandt, who I really like, really enjoy the show, was talking about Coach of the Year. The question was, is Mike Vrabel the Coach of the Year? You like that or not? He comes in and says, no, I'm going to go Frank Reich, because you look at, they started 1-4, and what they've done with Jonathan Taylor is, just so impressive, and Frank Reich seems to have all this thing going in the right direction. Well, okay, they started 1-4. They're not going to win the division, and they've had their running back all year. It exactly undercuts the argument that they're trying to make. And so I think if you are the Titans, you cannot tell me there is not a human element in Derrick Henry and people close to his mind, probably Mike Vrabel, that wants him back out there for reasons like that as well. I'm not saying it's necessarily the Colts, but the Titans do such a good job with chip on their shoulder and playing for this reason and that reason and using that as motivation. I just can't imagine a scenario where they don't put him back out there if he can go this year, if it's structurally sound. Blaine loves to talk about the Yancey Thigpen blowing out his foot and was never the same with a similar kind of injury. Technology's hopefully better. But I can't imagine it, Mick.
Curse had the same thing, too.
If he's healthy, play the big dog.
Yeah. I wonder, does this change kind of physically what he does for the rest of his career? Does he reduce like his heavy training, the blunt force trauma training?
Something's going to be different.
And try to change maybe the way he does. We'll see. We'll see what happens. In just a few minutes, the Titans will release their injury report today. Stay tuned for 3HL.
Hold your breath.
Yeah, hold your breath with the COVID test. And hold your breath until tomorrow, because we will be back right now. It's time for 3HL. They're live from B-Dubs in Hendersonville. That's next. Peace.